Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Very good morning to you, everybody. Here we go again. That's Louise Pepper on the other side of the table on the only show on the network that guarantees you twice the magic and twice the fun. I don't know what that means, but it's the slogan the station's keen for us all to get behind and push. Actually, it's twice. It's not that. It's twice the magic, twice the adventure.
Oh, okay.
5 Live.
Right, that's it.
The posters are out today. 5 Live. Twice the magic, twice the adventure. And so if we could all start saying that to each other, it would help us here a lot at the station now that Talk Sport is snapping at our heels. Very good morning to everybody. So, as you know, I like to bring the timeless rather than the topical. And this story it's torn from today's headlines. Brand new. It's a brand new thing I saw on the way in this morning. And here we go. There's a house for sale. Now, you know I'm looking to retire and immigrate.
Yes.
But there's a house for sale and it's in 2 countries.
Wow!
There's a street called Canusa Street because it's on the Canada-USA border. It's called Canusa. And there's a house for sale. The front door's in Vermont and the back garden's in Quebec.
Oh!
It's in Quebec. Yeah. It straddles the border. You can't go out your own back door, though, because of the national security. It crosses the border.
You could have a little man sat outside your back door checking your papers.
It's for sale. It's a big old drum, and it straddles the USA and Canada border. In Canusa Street, back gardens in Quebec, front doors in Vermont. $109,000.
Done.
$109,000.
Just for the pleasure of saying, I'm just popping into Canada.
You pay tax in both countries, but proportionately so.
I was going to say, which rules can you pick and choose? Which rules you go with?
I saw this morning. It's just gone on sale. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep that under my fez as I come in this morning, because in case other news networks nick that. And it's in 2 countries. I don't know a house that's
divided. We could all club together and buy that.
We should broadcast from there.
To quid in.
See how the ratings go in the back garden as opposed to the front door. How about that? That's a tremendous thing. But now, giving you the yang, I've got to give you the yin here because, last week we mentioned our weekly update, and we didn't used to have mosquitoes. I think I told you that, and you were rather
I raised a brow.
No, we didn't. Say we in the nation we had gnats and you had midges, but mosquitoes is new. Actual mosquitoes when you went abroad, yes. But they came here in the 80s, late 80s, and mosquitoes genuinely was not a thing. Now mosquitoes, as you know, ruin any time back garden after about 8 o'clock. But there's something else, and I don't know if I'm busting open. What do they call it? Where's the handbook? 1 second. So it's on every page. Twice the adventure, twice the magic. Twice the last taboo. That's amongst the approved phrases on the station. But busting open the last taboo, because you know what's back in a huge way. Never mind your mosquitoes, moths.
Talk to me about moths.
Well, there you go, because for years the only clothes-eating moths you ever saw were in cartoons and things, and comics. You see a moth sitting in a little fat little belly, half a sock in its hand. But they didn't actually used to really. The mothballs and all that was your nan's house.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But they are back, and English Heritage have asked everyone to monitor them because all museums and stuff are now getting infested again.
When you say monitor, is that before my dad splats them with a...
But that's the thing. Not your kind of large ones. I've seen these, and we have suffered from it. We thought we were alone in our last taboo. But a whole bunch of stuff recently got eaten by these little tiny ones.
Literally, the first thing my mother mentioned when I crossed the threshold of their house yesterday, Dad found a moth!
I know, but it genuinely is. It genuinely is.
Myths.
And English Heritage are going around museums now saying there's some new... Well, not kill a moth. Now I'm getting carried away. But they're back, and they're little... And the thing is, when you go like that, they disappear into dust.
Yes.
There's nothing of it.
I do feel momentary guilt.
No, I don't know. If they had some kind of squashy... To brer moth, I enjoy. I enjoy brer moth. I like them when they go around, and I never understood why they don't just fly to the sun. They want to go around the light bulb in your front room. But moths, you think, as soon as the sun comes up, that's where we're going, and they all head there. But they don't. But these new ones, and they are kind of just like a very pale taupe in colour. They're about a quarter of an inch long, and they're eating everything. in a biblical way. And I thought it was just us, and then I read this thing in the new... BBC's own History magazine.
Oh.
And it's in there. It's actually in there saying about, could anyone let us know if suddenly they've been... The moths are back, don't worry about that. Not that they ever left in certain things. OK, and that's the second one. It's Godfrey von Leibniz's birthday, 1649. He gave us the Choco Leibniz.
Oh! How comes I've only just discovered them if he was knocking around back then?
No, Choco Leibniz. All civilised people agree on that. Well,
I've only known of them in the last sort of 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, you were way behind. 1649. Godfrey von Leibniz said, "You know what that biscuit needs? Thick and rich chocolate on one side." The Choco Leibniz. But anyway.
Well, we're almost on to one of our topics today. Things your parents wouldn't have in the house. A decadent biscuit? No.
What are you talking
Strictly
about?
a digestive and rich tea house.
My mum
covered in chocolate.
My mum worked for Peak Freen, so we had the entire range stocking it up. Anyway, good morning, everyone. There's plenty. So who else's birthday it is? Evelyn Champagne King. Evelyn Champagne King.
Now,
not enough is made of that. In her name is the word champagne.
Self-dubbed, or did someone else?
Well, it's always in quotation.
Yeah.
But it was only when you look at it you think, we say that, but yet her name is Evelyn Champagne King. That is the greatest nickname, and it's just stuck in there. Her name's Evelyn King. No. It's Evelyn Champagne King.
Distinguish myself from the other Evelyns.
And it's in quotation marks. I don't know why she was called Evelyn Champagne King, but she's up there with her Choco Leibniz this morning. We're coming right to you, Paul. What you got over there? What are we doing this morning?
Number one, getting locked in.
Yeah, an old favourite of ours. Particularly getting locked in shops, I like. If anyone ever got locked in a shop.
Oh, I'd like that.
Mad world. But getting locked in anywhere, we'd love to hear from you this morning, please.
Number two, monitors and prefects.
Yeah, would you a monitor prefect?
Head of house, I think.
Were you?
Oh, yeah, right. Only one down from head girl, really.
And with great office comes great responsibility. What did you have to do?
It largely consisted of organising the inter-house competitions and things like that. It was a heavy mantle, to be honest. I thought it would be going around, do lines!
Yeah.
Clear this up. No, it was, please come and sing songs from The Lion King in front of
I would have loved to have fagging and all that. Not to be. I would love to have dished all that out.
Oh, yeah. No, by the time I was in charge, you weren't allowed to dish anything out. My brothers were prefects at the all-boys school. I think they were, but us girls, no, we weren't allowed to.
Oh, well, I'll hear any stories you have of, and what duty you had, what duty you were, what monitor were you, and all of that. So, what else?
Number three, mind going blank at a crucial time.
Yep. You hear it regularly on this show, but I understand it happens in the real world too. When did your mind go blank? At a crucial time, please.
Number four, your first time tasting something.
Either it's the very first thing you remember tasting, thinking, like that, don't like that, or the very first time, the first time I had an oyster, I thought, that's been a terrible trick played on me.
I've never gone back.
I was at Brighton Racecourse, so I went back. I went back.
Is it worth pursuing?
Oh, it's very worth pursuing. I can't think of anything I enjoy more.
Like licking the bottom of a boat.
No. With oysters with Evelyn Champagne King, that's the absolute, that's the menu of kings. But the first time go back to oysters.
Oh, really?
Don't do your whoomp, wallop down, bang. That's it. Little spoonful of that sort of red juice, and that's all you need. But the first time you remember tasting something. What else you got?
Number five, feigning illness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had a series of books when I was younger called, I think they were the Whiz Kids Handbook. I don't know. I just looked up Peter Eldon. And it had tips for how to fake being ill and not going to school. And one of the brilliant ones it had was to walk around sort of holding your head or holding your stomach.
Yeah.
But as soon as your mother or father looked at you, removing your hand
that's clever.
and trying to look brave. And I'm perfectly well. So that out the corner of their eye, they think, I'm sure you're just holding her head. Oh, are you all right? I really want to go to school today because it's double games and I love games.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. That's great. And anything you can give us on the back of that, if it worked or it didn't, we'd love to hear from you that. Because in Tom and Jerry, that thing they do when you get a little paintbrush and paint red dots, and it don't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I won't go into the story, but let me tell you, that's a lie. It doesn't look convincing. The thermometer held against the light bulb, that works.
Oh, well, yes.
That works.
Until it's an impossible temperature that you can't possibly be.
But anything you have on that, please, feigning illness.
Number 6, the world's worst street markets.
Yep. Sometimes you think, this market down there, you get down there, and they can be very pathetic. 6 stalls and stuff. They launched one in Croft Road, Deptford, once. Me and my friend went to it. He's running the Bermondsey Carnival today. Good morning, Phil. And I've twisted his arm, so it's going to be brilliant, because there were no street markets in our area, and opened it, and it really was 2 stalls selling tea towels. And another one selling tut, which is a word that can't be spelt, of course, but it was just selling a load of old tut. I
always think some of those ones you go to in Spain where they say, this is the longest street market in all of Mallorca. And I always think of the, what film is it? I think it's in Help, or is it A Hard Day's Night? Where I feel like you start it and the people in the first stalls are moving them to the end of the last stall, so you're actually seeing the same people, because it's all the same tea cloth.
And they're all selling leather hats.
Yes.
Anyway, but any notable stories you have about street markets, please?
Number 7, things your parents wouldn't have in the house.
Let's hear about that. Certainly, Andy's come in with a weird border story, but we'll be right with you, folks. Things your parents wouldn't have in the house.
Number 8, making a racket.
Anything you got of that, you were supposed to be quiet. But the headline is making a racket. Is it you or somebody else, and the consequences of that?
Number 9, when politeness backfires.
What was that? What was that?
When politeness backfires.
Well, here's Sonny, my boy Sonny, told us before, he ran for a bus, and as he got there, it started to pull away, but then it went... and it stopped for him and opened the doors again. And as he got there, he thought, this is not the bus I want. But he had to get on it. He said, thanks, and he sat on it, and he couldn't get straight off. So he sat there about 4 stops going, somewhere I didn't want to go. And got off and go. He got, this ain't it. Had to get on it to be polite. Went about 4 stops on it in the wrong direction, and then thank you, and then walked back to where he was.
You've raised a lovely boy there. Just before we go to a rugby update, number 10 is legitimate reasons for throwing food, something I very much disapprove of.
Yeah, me too, but it happens.
It is the All Blacks versus the Lions. What's happening, Don Busby?
Thank you very much indeed, my friend. No, is that on? There it goes. I didn't know you could do that with these.
Uh-oh.
I didn't know you could do that.
There's a look in producer Claire's eyes now. The reason you were never told.
I didn't know you could do that. Oh, you can. That's okay. Let's go to Paul. Hey, Paul.
Good morning.
Morning to you, Paul. Man alive, I've got something here. Hang on, listen. Anyway, Paul, what are you calling us for?
That's the rest of the show sorted for you, Danny. You don't need to play with your little bot.
Oh, last week we do need to call us. Last week 3 calls we got, 2 of those wrong numbers. So what are you calling us for, my friend? What's the story?
I'm calling you for a subject that you've completely forgotten about from last week, which was when famous people come to your aid.
Oh, good. What have you got?
Do you remember that?
Yeah, up to a point. Go on.
Well, there you go. It was purely, I can't remember the context now as to why you mentioned it, but I thought I'd tell you the story of my parents who went over to visit my brother when he lived in Dubai, and they went for Christmas. And they were elderly, and the heat change of cold England and then hot Dubai at Christmas was a bit much for my elderly father. They're flying home business class because they're spending the kids' inheritance, and my dad's not very well. And so my dad takes a bit of a turn for the worse, and most of the people in business class turn their volume up on their films and stare very much at the screens, and my mother is trying to help, and the stewardesses are around, and then this lady gets up, comes over and sort of rolls her sleeves up and starts helping, and my mum sort of sheepishly, looking after my dad, and then she looks up to say thank you to the lady when everything's sorted out, and it's Princess Michael of Kent.
Oh! It's one thing, and especially Princess Michael of Kent, was that Princess Pushy.
She was, loved that.
And her and her husband, they were always held up as the, freeloading part of the royal family. They were always. And yet, as we saw with the Tsar and his daughters, when war breaks out or when there's a crisis, bang, they're into the breach. And did he thank Her Highness personally?
My mum not only sort of thanked her profusely, but now will not hear words said against
no.
Without a doubt, the greatest member of the royal family ever to exist.
And the old man, what symptoms was he displaying that brought her over?
Oh, we didn't know at the time, but he was having the beginnings of Alzheimer's. So he was all confused and all that. So
and they never kept in touch, I take it.
Sadly, no Christmas cards, no popping round for tea, no invitations or anything like that. But the fact that she bothered to get up and help out,
that is plenty. And as I say, if that doesn't then secure the mortgage on Buckingham Palace for another 1,000 years, then I'd like to know what does, Paul. Thank you very much, our friend Paul there, coming to the aid of. Sir Tony Robinson joins us soon. Tony was anti-establishment for years, but we can place that before him and say, come on, Roundhead, become a Cavalier. Here's our friend Andy. Hey, Andy.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good as gold, Andy. I was talking to this news story that other news networks are now scrambling to catch up with. A house on the Canadian-American border. The front door's in Vermont, but the back garden's in Quebec. A house that straddles a border. What have you got for us, Andy?
Well, a wee while back I had a look at Google Earth to have a look at borders between different countries for a pub quiz for a research or a pub quiz. And I had a look at the border between the Netherlands and Belgium and saw this really odd-looking place called Baarle-Hertog and Baarle-Nassau. Oh. And this is a little town that's got like maybe 20 or 30 different pockets of land in either country.
Does it? It wobbles around.
Yeah, I mean, I had a look at a photo on Google as well, and it's got these little kind of tiles in the street. Mm-hmm. So you can see whichever part of whichever country you're in, depending on what part of town you're in.
So, like at Greenwich, you can stand with your right foot in the northern hemisphere, and whatever it is at Greenwich. I've done it many times, but I can't figure out what it is. But you can stand in different parts of the world, so you can put one foot in one country and one in another.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally. I mean, I've never been there, but I'd quite like to check it out. But along the pavement, they've got these little crosses, and on one half it's got a symbol for the Netherlands, and the other side it says Belgium. It just looks really funny. Well,
I've only been a bit of tournaments. Oh, there's other reasons to go to Europe, but I've only been. And you go on that motorway, and you don't know if you're in Luxembourg and all of that, and you can spend very short amount of time in those countries. But I didn't know that they could be wavy lines like that. I suppose they have to be, don't they? They don't all look like Egypt. Thank you very much indeed, Andy. He's telling us there that you can build houses in several countries, and your kitchen can be in France, and then in the den. Do people have dens? I don't know. Anyway, you heard what the fella said. We've got you next, Keith. What you got over there, Peps?
Well, Belinda brings dreadful tidings. Danny, the Indian meal moth, found frequently in pet food, will demolish anything. They breed like crazy and punch holes in plastic bags and lay their eggs everywhere.
We haven't got a photograph of it.
The Indian meal moth.
If you've just joined us, English Heritage have asked people to monitor because moths are back. And I genuinely have noticed this in the last 3 or 4 years.
The things we're talking about.
Are they tiny little tips of darts? I think it is. Yes, That's it.
Belinda's sourced them for us.
They're absolutely voracious. Absolutely voracious. Here's our friend Keith. Hey, Keith.
Oh, hi, Dan. How are
it's Keithy, baby Keithy. I didn't realise it was you, Keith. Yeah, but I didn't bring you on the air as I should. Let's go back. Hang on. And let me go back, Keith. Hang on. Right, next caller. It's Keithy, baby Keithy. You was a prefect, were you, Keith?
More than that, Dan. I was head boy.
Oh. Okay. And how did you attain to office?
Very well. I was head boy of a grammar school, so it was mid-70s. Mm-hmm. Used to get any good books because what we did was we borrowed the school minibus with the economics teacher driving it, went to local cash and carry, bought sweets and set up a tuck shop behind the stage. So that was all good. Mm-hmm. And the headmaster was quite impressed with that. He let me take assembly one day. Now, for assembly, I thought, I'll show all these old squares. So I proceeded to wheel out the school record player, plugged it in, and I played as much as I could of Dark Side of the Moon to the assembly.
Did you?
And all the kids sitting there, I played Time and Money. I thought, That'll show.
Now, hang on. And you and I are, nothing if not veterans of this. You played you played money to them. When it says, don't give me that do-goody-good expletive. How did that's one in the eye for the establishment. Princess Michael Kent is rocking on her throne. You played that to them.
We got away with it.
Yeah. And then that was after you became head boy. Did they strip you of your...
No, I was, I think I was head boy. No, I was head boy then. Yeah, I was head boy, so I kind of used that as my privilege, and they said, what would you like to do? I said, I'd like to play this in assembly because it shows the meaning. I talked about money, obviously, because money, I thought, after economics...
But let's get down to the real stuff, kid. Did you get one of those enamel shield-like badges?
Yes, certainly did. Blue with a diagonal stripe across.
Beautiful.
Head boy.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you in office?
Just for the year. It was the school uniform had the tie was like West Ham colours, claret and blue. And I do remember the custard in our school stained the tie. If you spilt custard, when you had Manchester Tartan's custard for school dinners, if you spilled it on the tie, it would more or less wipe the tie out.
Well,
Your moth problem. Would have killed your moths, mate.
Well, but the first thank you very much indeed, Keithy, baby. The first head boy this morning, apart from Pepsi, was head girl. You don't know, you can be the milk monitor. You can be you can be the one who...
Oh, register monitor.
Taking
them back to the office.
Yeah, oh, no, your eyes have got sadness in your eyes there. The sadness in your eyes, because when you said that, it was like they just gave the jet for turning up. Those are the people we want to hear from. We're coming to you, Peter. What do you got over there, Pep?
Well, Jeff Lloyd, who covers for you when you're overrun with moths, he says. He needs to report.
Really?
Needs to report himself.
I think, as I say, people think this show is, but it not flatters to deceive. It clings on by its fingernails, and people think some of the stories we come up with on it, but we're blowing the lid off this, right off this. The moths are back, and the government's doing nothing of it. What we need is one of those, those spray planes you see going along with, and they go over mosquitoes usually. We need those over every house in Britain. Every house in Britain, because the moths, they show no quarter. What's that, Peps?
Half-time at the rugby, All Blacks 9, British and Irish Lions 9.
All right. When I ask you during the sausage sandwich game what the score is, remember it's about the sausage sandwich game, not the rugby. Here's Peter. Hey, Peter.
Hello.
How are you doing, Peter? Well, a bit my tongue. Peter, so we're hearing most borders are very fluid, and most people live in one part of the world or the other. Oh, no, most people's houses are in one part of the world or the other. Although I think the first statement is quite true as well. Peter, what have you got for us?
We were on a walking holiday, partly in France, partly in Switzerland, and we heard that this hotel was on the border of France and Switzerland. And you say, yeah. They're always saying that.
Yeah.
When we got there, we found it actually was on the border.
Yeah.
The dining room was in France.
Oh, I like this.
Our bedroom was in France, but we crossed the border twice, going along the hall and up the stairs.
Oh.
And... quite unusual. The one thing that we were very pleased to hear is that the hotel didn't enforce the border.
Why not? Don't want anyone to stay there. The one thing, if you buy that hotel, Peter, is to say there are checkpoints on the stairs before the second bathroom. People would flood there then. And the most disappointing thing, you can go anywhere. No.
What about if you had to go to the loo in the middle of the night? Would you have to take...
Yeah, you take the necessary papers. Yes, you do.
And you would definitely go to the loo in the middle of the night for that reason.
Oh, Sir Peter, I can't believe they'd missed that particular trick. Should be like Steptoe's house. And we went between the two countries for how long were you there?
We were there for... in the hotel one night, but on this walking holiday, 7 days. So you walked during the day, and the travel company took your baggage on, so you just took a day pack. Really lovely part of the world. We flew into Geneva and out of Geneva, and it was that kind of part of France.
Well, the hijinks you can have, surely, if you're with your partner there and you call them up every 20 times an hour, you'd call them saying, because they're in another room, where are you? Oh, I'm in France. Where are you? Oh, I'm in Switzerland. And thus the fun flies along, wouldn't you? You'd have to keep doing that. Where are you now? I'm in France. I can't see you because I'm in Switzerland. Peter, bless you for that. That's a tremendous thing. But get in touch with them and tell them they need checkpoints and lots of them. Something quick there, Pep. What you got?
We heard the other week from the man whose father wore Jimmy Carter's suit to his wedding because he worked at Madame Tussauds.
He wore all his parents, his dad worked at Madame Tussauds, and they used to have all the clothes that the dummies had in their house.
And from Spencer, I was working on a TV show in the 90s, Beatles Hot Shots.
Oh, yeah.
And a contributor asked me to help with the props. I went to the LWT prop store, a wonderland. Do you have any dentures? I asked prop master Jerry. He gave me a box of dentures. When I got back to the office, one set, big mould, large teeth, Peter Cook written on them in...
No! Oh, man! Well,
doesn't say if he put them in his mouth.
I put this on a second ago. I've worn Blakey's hat. No, I'm in the business. But so I've held the big cards from Play Your Cards Right.
Oh, now you're talking.
I used to hang out a lot in the London Weekend stockroom. All right, hang on. Well, you listen to the news because I'm going to have the time of my life sitting in here. Where you go?
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live. Home of Danny Baker's sausage sandwich game. Will it be red sauce, brown sauce, or no sauce at all?
I mentioned Evening Champagne King.
Yeah.
And the one I didn't mention. I mean, we're not one of those shows that does birthdays. Let me put that another way. We're one of those shows that does birthdays. But today, this really is a magnificent one while we're doing this. Olivia de Havilland.
Oh!
Still alive.
Recently made a dame, I think.
Let's hope so. Gone with the Wind's own Olivia de Havilland, 101 today. And she's still giving speeches. She gave a speech at the oldie dinner.
No!
Yeah. Oh, no, you don't. She's not a pile of dust. She is... there's plenty of Olivia de Havilland all over the place. And 101 today. Oh. Ms. Havilland, absolutely. Here's our friend Charlotte Edwards. Charlotte!
Morning.
Thank you very much to play the sausage sandwich game with us. Now, since you quotes retired from cricket, how's that been panning out for you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I've had a brilliant time.
Have you?
Go on holidays and do stuff that I never was able to do. So yeah, it's been good so far.
But is it like if you hear the old crack of the ball on the willow, as they say, do you think? I think there's a couple of innings left in me yet. Has there been any twitching to go back?
Well, I've still played domestically, so I'm still actually getting to play a little bit. But yeah, obviously I think I'll always miss it. But yeah, it's good life now, and I'm getting to do lots of other things.
Well, one of those things I happen to know, because we have a crack research team here, Charlotte, is you're a frustrated singer because you can sing. You got some pipes. That's how I hear. And I see this morning Adele has cancelled 2 concerts. You're in. You're in.
I'd love that. Yeah, I saw her in Sydney.
Just can't. You weren't going to go, were you, to any of these Wembley Stadium shows she's cancelled?
No, I went to watch in Sydney in Australia in the winter, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I did feel for those people this morning.
Have you ever been in a production, at school or anything, where you got a chance to stretch out?
Unfortunately not. I've not been given my chance yet, but who knows?
Well, you know what I like, Charlotte? A lot of people, when you say they can sing, because I can sing. They say, oh, no, I can't. But you say, no, I actually can. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's like saying, it's like if I said, you can hit a cricket ball. Well, I can't. That false modesty I don't buy. And what do you like to sing? I'm not going to ask you to do it, by the way. I'm not going to do that.
My favourites at the moment are Celine Dion, Think Twice.
Yeah.
And the girls from the England cricket team will know that Bonnie Tyler, Take the Eclipse of the Heart is probably my all-time great.
Really?
Yeah.
Now I really do wish I had the karaoke history to hear that. Celine Dion, when she sings the theme from Titanic, there's a mistake in it that plainly everyone was too terrified to say because she was so pleased with the take. If you listen when she says, my heart will go on, I wish we had it here. She actually sings, if you listen, Charlotte. She says at the beginning, she goes, my heart will go on and on. She puts an extra D in there. You listen, it's as clear as anything. And she also came out and said, I think that's really good, don't you? And they went, yeah, and it's in there. It's a mistake, and if you really want to do the perfect Celine Dion imitation, throw the extra D in there. Let me ask you, how about the risotto? You cook seafood risotto. How's that going?
Yeah, no, really well. Well, I've had lots of time to, obviously, do my cooking now, so, I did one the other week. Went down well with my mum.
You don't just sit around all day. You're doing plenty, by the way. You're working tomorrow, aren't you, doing the cricket tomorrow?
Yeah, no, I'm doing BBC TMS and the TV commentary for the World Cup tomorrow, so looking forward to getting down to Taunton.
And the risotto, or as some people call it, risotto. Let's not mix with those people, Charlotte. Do you overpack it? Because I find Wendy and I, well, let's put another way. When Wendy makes it, she throws it's all seafood and very little risotto.
Oh, it sounds like a dream.
I know. Are you very sparing? Is it just the prawns?
Oh no, I'm exactly the same. I like to put a lot of seafood in it, and it's quite a big dish.
Yeah.
But it's gone down well with a lot of my friends, so I'm pretty happy.
That's what I like about Charlotte. Can you sing? Yeah. Can you cook? Yeah. You know, were you the best at the game? Yeah. That's what I like in people. Have you ever heard this sausage sandwich going before, Charlotte?
Well, I have heard a lot about it, actually.
Nah, the answer's no. I think the answer you're looking for, and that's fine. And at the end of it, you'll forget all about it, so it's like an anaesthetic. We'll be right back with you, Charlotte. We'll find out who's playing. Here's Dan. Hey, Dan.
Good morning, Danny.
Dan, let's do a bit about yourself with the seafood risotto. Pack it too much? Because I put whelks in it, and that's not traditionally. I put whelks in it. Oh, let me say, I buy whelks for when to put in it. What do you think, Dan?
Bit of scampi in there, Danny. We'll be away.
I'm sure it's just one of those things. We say, oh, go on, buy loads of squid, and it all goes in, and there's about 8 grains of rice peeping up between it all. Who are you playing for this morning, Dan?
Aldlam ladies football team.
OK, and why are you going for Where is Aldlam?
So Aldlam's the very south of Cheshire, the most southernest tip of Cheshire you can get, right on the Shropshire Union Canal. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing for them because they're a really enthusiastic bunch of local ladies who get together, try and get fit, and ultimately they will bring the FA Cup back to Aldlam.
And how are they doing at the moment, league-wise?
Not so well. Not so well. They're just kind of reforming right now, Danny, so we're encouraging them all the way.
Well, it's a huge fixture because, Dan, you're playing for the Aldlam ladies football team, and you're up against Tony. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Danny. All right?
Yeah, I couldn't be better, Tony, because I now know. Listen to this for a fixture. We've got the Aldlam ladies football team. And who are you playing for, Tony?
We're playing for the Bus Boys. Well, I'm playing for the Bus Boys.
What's the Bus Boys? What is the Bus Boys?
The Bus Boys were formed about 17 years ago. We all used to get a bus from Bishop Stortford down to the station, and we all had a interest in football, and we thought, well, let's go and play.
Isn't it lovely?
Side. And we started 17 years ago, and now we're seriously old and still doing it.
Most of the clubs, when you look back, and whether it's Nottingham Forest or who's top of the Premier League these days, like Wolves.
Or
Tottenham. They all have humble beginnings like this, but they try to cover them up. Most clubs began on public transport. So it's Tony. You're playing Dan, so it's Aldlam ladies football versus. Tony for the Bus Boys on the sausage sandwich game, and Charlotte Edwards good enough to take time away from her duties in all kinds of ways to be a subject this morning. So here we go. What happened to Charlotte? I'm going to ask some questions only you know the answer to. So you're on Easy Street, you're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels, and by the way, the Walkman invented today.
Oh!
The first Walkman, I don't know where it was, but it was invented today. And only you can know the answer, Charlotte, and Dan for the Aldlam ladies football against Tony for Bus Boys. By anticipating your answer, we'll try and score a goal for their teams, and then we move on, and then fighting talks on and everything else. By the way, Charlotte, I don't know if you heard earlier on in the show, and again, I don't blame you if you didn't, but moths, we're in the middle of an epidemic of moths. Have you noticed many moths? I mean, really the type that eat clothes, because they never used to. I don't know if your home at the moment, Charlotte, has a blight of moths.
Well, I haven't been home much recently, but no, I haven't seen any.
They are. You watch out. They go to nothing. You clap on them, they go to a puff of dust, like most TV formats. And but the English Heritage have asked everybody to say, don't keep it to yourself. It's the last taboo. Get in touch with the other and say, yeah, moths are everywhere. We can spray. Where was we? Right. Oh, we're playing the game. I love that. Exasperated right there from Charlotte. Here we go. The very first question. And it's something, Charlotte, I'm going to ask you not to give an indication either way here. Have you got a shower cap in your home, by the way, Pat?
I have one of those ones I've pilfered from a hotel.
Yeah, okay.
Rather than a very fancy one like see in the films, just the plastic
the last
one.
Knockings of a jellyfish one.
Yeah.
Those sort of ones. Okay, but well, that's where we're going with this. Dan, the shower cap. And I've got to say, I like to affect them. I like the noise they make. I've got no hair to protect anymore, but I do like to wear a shower cap sometimes. It's amusing. But then Charlotte Edwards, if she thinks about it, and to the best of her knowledge, we don't ever ask anyone to, we never go around and check out the answers on this. but Charlotte Edwards has worn a shower cap. See, I don't think they should be too sturdy or patterned. I think the one you've got that's all you need. Anything else is too elaborate. Has worn a shower cap, then, in the last 48 hours. She's worn one in the last week. Well, it's been longer than that since she thought, I'm just having a quick shower, just pop my hair into a shower cap. I don't know why suddenly that's given me the giggles, but it has. Dan, it's been 48, and she's worn a shower cap in the last 48 hours, strangely. She's worn one in the last week, or it's been longer than that. She may not even own one. We don't know. We're about to find out. Dan, what do you think? How about yourself, Dan? Have you ever slipped on a shower cap?
Danny, no, I haven't. I've got an advanced race between greying and balding, so it's not an option.
By the way, that's the new talk show here on 5 Live. Greying and balding is coming up your way. All the headlines discussed, and we need your calls. 10 o'clock tonight on a station that... Oh, by the way, Peps, that's the new jingle for the station. Could you say that? We'll be right back with the game. We're just going to find this out. Hang on. Here we go. This is the brand new being unrolled today, so hang on. Be back with the game, everyone. Hang on.
You're listening to BBC 5 Live. Twice the magic, twice the adventure.
Yeah, I think that's going to be good. That's going to be a good one, that. So, Dan, it's been in the last 48 hours, Charlotte Edwards has worn a shower cap. In the last week or longer than that, what do you think?
So I'm going to go with Charlotte being longer than a week, please, Danny.
Okay. Tony, ever slipped on a shower cap, Tony?
Unfortunately not, Danny.
No, come on, you
I'd like to have a go, obviously.
It's a lovely pitter-patter on there.
Exactly. It's extraordinary, you know. Yeah, it is. It's pitter-patter. That's it. Well, anyway, you're left with, what's he left with, Peps?
48 hours or the last week?
OK, 48 hours of the last week.
I'm going to go with 48 hours, I think.
Charlotte.
Those lustrous locks.
We're about to find out. Charlotte, the last time you slipped on a shower cap, you said, I ain't got time to wash my hair and all. I'm not suggesting anything by that, but it happens. In the last 48 hours, you've got it under a shower cap. It's been a week or it's been longer than that. The answer, please. Charlotte Edwards.
Longer than that.
Is it? What's that done to the score, Peps?
It's Aldham Ladies Football Club 1, the Busboys 0, and before I let you go any further, Don Busby has the latest on the rugby.
Oh. Charlotte, do you even own a shower cap?
I don't.
Oh. Now you're thinking about it, though. You're thinking, oh, actually, I should. Am I right?
Yeah, I am,
actually. You know, I'd like to say that painstaking research goes into the sausage sandwich game, Charlotte. You're figuring out it doesn't. And as I was sharing this morning, I saw it there and I thought, I've never noticed that before, the old shower cap hanging up there. We've got the first goal in the game. Here we go now. We've got to settle down, everyone. We're getting nowhere here. Twice the magic, twice the adventure. What was the first magic and adventure then, Peps? What were they talking about?
Not me.
I know, some of them paid about 300,000 for that. Now, Tony, has Tony got a chance to equalise, or is it 1-0?
Tony has... it's one, yes.
What? Okay. Now, this one's dead straightforward. They're absolutely straightforward. Charlotte breathes a sigh of relief. Tony, I'm trying to think of three nations that don't, as far as I know, care much for cricket. And we're going to decide which ones of those, just as a private individual, or perhaps even trying to wake them up to the great game, Charlotte's been to. It's as simple as that, Tony. Couldn't be more straightforward. And here's the three countries. Now I'm going to say three countries' names, Tony, and then I'll give you the question. Here we go, Tony. We've got Norway, Iceland, and Finland. Right now, Charlotte Edwards has been to one of those countries. She's been to more than one of those countries, or she's never been to any of those countries. Norway, Iceland or Finland, never mind the cricket angle. Charlotte Edwards herself has been to one of those countries. She's been to more than one of those countries, or she's never been to any of those countries. How about you, Peps? You ever been to Norway, Iceland or Finland?
I have been to one of those.
What one?
Finland for a wedding.
See, I've been to Lapland. Lapland's Finland, isn't it?
I wouldn't know.
Well, apparently so.
Let's say it is.
All right. Tony, what do you think? Charlotte Edwards been to one of those countries, Norway, Iceland or Finland? Been to more than one of those, might have been to all three. Or none of them. What do you think, Tony?
Well, I've been to absolutely none of them, but I'm not very well travelled, so I'm going to say...
What do you mean? Where have you been?
Well, standard places, Danny. I've been to Spain a few times and Greece a few times.
France,
Anything going Northern Hemisphere? No, not really.
Been to Disney World?
No, I haven't been to Disney World.
Get yourself... If you do nothing else, You do nothing else. Get yourself over to Disney World. What did you say as an answer? What did you say?
I'm going to say more than one, I think.
OK, more than one of those countries. Dan, Charlotte Edwards, Norway, Iceland, Finland. She's been to one of those. Or she's never been to any of them.
Well, Danny, I think she seems pretty well travelled. She's been to Sydney to see Adele, so I'm going to go one with my only chance left.
But the key here is cricket, surely. That would be it.
And Iceland's lovely, so why not?
I know. But, had she travelled to Tierra del Fuego, then you might, that's well travelled, with all due respect. But anyway, we're going to find out the answer. Charlotte Edwards, Norway, Iceland and Finland. You've been to one of those countries? You've been to none of those countries, or you've been to more than one of those countries. The answer, please, Charlotte Edwards, CBE.
None.
Haven't you? That's the answer I wanted to hear. Do you now feel a little like you didn't want to admit that information?
Yeah, I do actually. I think I'm more the Southern Hemisphere girl. So
yeah, I can see. Yeah,
definitely done all my travelling around the Southern Hemisphere.
And would I be right in saying they don't have representative cricket in those countries?
They do, but
do they?
Yeah, they do play
weak.
some cricket. But yeah, I've not managed to play against them or obviously play there. So
Iceland is supposed to be like a million laughs. I know you heard I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Iceland. If you'd like to ring up and give a bad word about Iceland, that's what we're here for. But now, Iceland, Charlotte, is supposed to be absolutely beautiful and hot.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've heard that, so that might have to be my next place on my list, really, to go and have a...
I'll hand you back to our travel department, because if nothing else, 5 Live should say, there's a series there, Charlotte Edwards Visits Iceland. I'd listen to that. What you got there, Peps? What's the score?
Well, I could give you both scores so that I don't get confused.
There's others? Oh, yes,
There's the rugby score. Let me give you... What would you prefer?
Either way, go on.
The rugby score, currently, All Blacks 15, British and Irish Lions 9.
Mm-hmm.
But the score that matters, of course... is it remains Aldham Ladies Football Club 1, the Busboys 0.
OK, and this then, Dan, is for the game. This will be for the game, Dan. No pressure here on the Aldham Ladies football team. See the patriarchy at work, by the way. Mansplaining on behalf of the ladies team. They're all sitting there going, OK, if we'd have known you were going to do it, we'd have done that. So here we go. Dan, I hand Charlotte Edwards, when we go to Iceland together and I'm a guide around it. I've never been there, but I could be a page ahead in the book. Guiding her around, saying, look, see those over there? You see, on the very top of that building, that's the Northern Lights. So, Dan, but then she says, I'm peckish, I'd like a sausage sandwich. No, it's not peckish, you're starving if you have a sausage sandwich. Dan, I hand her a sausage sandwich. What are you going to say, Dan, before I ask you? What are you going to say?
I'm going to end up red, Danny.
OK, well, let's do the form anyway. Dan, I hand you a sausage sandwich. Does Charlotte Edwards, Dan, does she ask for red sauce? Does she ask for brown sauce? Does she ask for no sauce at all? What do you think, Dan? Now you're wavering. No. Now you've showed your hand. You're wavering.
Thought about it long and hard. This is whether it goes on my LinkedIn profile or not, whether I've done this game. My school blazer was brown, so I'm going red.
He's not confident. Tony, you need this. Tony. Well, yeah. No, exactly. Come on. Just say you're listening to the station that's twice the magic, twice the adventure. Give it some. Tony, oh, hang on. Where's that cough button? I'm going to cough. Hang on, here it is. Hang on, 1 second. Thank you. No, they've got a button here. If you're going to cough, it disguises it. Tony, you are for brown sauce or no sauce at all?
Well, only one option for me, then it is always going to be brown sauce.
It's a brown v red fight. This is what we want. Charlotte Edwards, I hand you a sausage sandwich. A good one, crusty bread. The sausage is bursting at the seams. No, with all due respect, they're not your supermarket ones. These are bespoke, smashed down into the bread. And then you reach for the sauce. While it's still hot, the pan is still sizzling. Do you ask for red sauce? Do you ask for brown sauce, Charlotte? Or do you ask for no sauce at all? The answer, please, Charlotte Edwards.
Red every single time.
Oh, it is!
Oh!
It is! Man, look at that, Dan. I bet, Dan, did you actually punch the air then?
Absolutely.
You did! I knew it! Oh, no, and Tony looked down at his shoes and wondered why he's wasted his life. What you got there, Peps?
Aldham Ladies 2, Busboys 0.
OK, Aldham Ladies, all happening. Tony, it was worth it. Was it worth it?
Absolutely. We'll always genuine respect in front of the ladies anyway and let them through.
Not going to O'Reilly there with his cape down, making all the women throw up. Thank you very much indeed, Tony. Dan, you get what everybody who plays the sausage sandwich game gets. Our very best wishes. Charlotte, what's it looking like so far, the World Cup and that? What's going on?
Yeah, no, it started brilliantly. It's been a week in, and there's been some brilliant games, and England got back to winning ways on Tuesday and play tomorrow. So looking forward to getting down to watching that tomorrow.
And you're doing it for this station, aren't you?
Yes, I am, absolutely, yeah, enjoying every minute of it.
What do you think of our new slogan, twice the magic, twice the adventure? It seems a bit... I suppose we'll all live up to it. Do you want to try it for me, Charlotte? Twice the magic, twice the adventure. I've been saying it all morning. It's not really sticking.
Oh, it's great.
It is, isn't it? When we meet in private, you can tell me what you really think. Charlotte, I know it seems like torture, but it's not all like this. Come in and see us one of these Saturday mornings, because it's only this half hour that's a little like this. So, Charlotte, all the best with the World Cup. Thank you very much for taking part in it this morning. It was an absolute belter. And now, the show's own jingle.
Good morning, everybody, it's the Danny Baker Show, radiating out across the airwaves. Come the sunshine or the rain, come aboard the Danny train. We'll kick our slippers off and throw our cares away. What better thing to do than have a jolly jape or two? Don't touch that dial, there's nowhere else to go. Come and join a happy session, wave ta-ta to the recession on the Danny Baker Show. Take it away, Danny.
Always do, Wisby.
Maybe he's right. Maybe there is something the matter with me. I just don't see how a world that makes such wonderful things could be bad. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete?
Any members of my family currently listening? Where should we go on holiday this year?
Everything. Look at this trove. Treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here, you think.
Sure.
She's got everything.
I bet Charlotte could have sung that. I should have brought the karaoke.
Oh,
I know.
yes.
I know, that would have been terrific. Here's our friend David, by the way, Peps. Hey, David.
Hi Danny.
I couldn't be better, David. Twice the magic, twice the adventure. What's the matter?
Lisa, before you and David enjoy yourselves, may I point out All Blacks 18, Lions 9 currently in the rugby.
And I'll have another caning. What are you calling us for, David? What's the story?
Well, a short story about how my path to privilege was sabotaged by me. How I managed to get sacked at primary school from being milk monitor.
Did you? Oh, this is a tremendous scandal. You were a milk monitor, all good. And so what led you to be getting branded and stripped?
Well, we used to collect up the cartons and line them up in the corridor outside and jump on them in sequence and fire straws down the corridor.
Oh, no, who could resist that? Now you're saying that firing the straws down the corridor. When you say firing the straws down the corridor, do you mean you took the end bit of paper off the straw, then went to that and blew the covering paper off down the corridor?
No, left them in the cartons.
Pyramid
lined them up in rows.
Oh, I've got you. I see, yes. And because getting, when you buy ice lollies and you take the wrapper off and blow into that and put it on the floor, you can go, if you step on that the right way. And who caught you?
Well, Deputy Head.
Oh.
And he stripped you there and then, or were you called in a ceremony?
No, there was no ceremony. Just branded instantly.
Yeah, they ripped off your epaulets, took the hat and sash away from you.
Absolutely.
And what has been your relationship with milk since then?
It's soured, Danny.
Bravo! There's your friend, our friend David there, stripped of being a monitor. That's even better phoning. If you were ever relieved of your duties, I would love to hear him. Thank you very much, David. That's it. He's lactose intolerant. All right, what you got there, Peps?
Janice and Devon, prefects and monitors. I was the hamster monitor in primary school. It basically meant if there was a fire drill, I had to pick up the hamster cage.
Oh, these are the tinier offices. It's all very well Peps coming on here and swanking around saying I was head girl, but these are the ones we want. Right, there's an hour of the show done. Twice the magic, twice the adventure. There's stickers if anyone wants to ring in with that on. And we'll be right back with Sir Tony Robertson. That'll be plenty.
The successful novelist. A body at the bottom of the staircase. Beyond reasonable doubt. The new podcast phenomenon from BBC 5 Live. Download and subscribe now.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Available now on the 5 Live webcam. Go to bbc.co.uk/5live.
And say it, Peps, what's the slogan?
Oh, hang on. You're listening to BBC 5 Live. Twice the magic, twice the adventure.
I don't know what's wrong with the magic and the adventure, that I had to double it up. Anyway, now I'm joined by that notorious reductive Pabloite. Sir Tony Robinson joins us. You've been accused of being a Pabloite, haven't you?
Yeah. What an intro. No one has the faintest idea what you're talking about.
Well, it's of a piece with the rest of the show then, Tony. That seems to be and here, because of the magnificent paperback edition of the autobiography called No Cunning Plan, which, if nothing else, and believe me, there was plenty else, I didn't know. I've been listening to your work all my life. I didn't know you had that line on the Oliver soundtrack.
Yeah.
You've got the one liner. You got the what is it?
What next is the question?
If anyone's got the original Oliver, when it goes, "What next is the question?"
That's me.
That's you.
Not only that,
oh, I know.
But the feet. Do you remember that moment in Oliver when the little boy walks up to the Beadle and says, "Please, sir, I want some more." The boy playing Oliver on the day that we recorded the album at the Maida Vale Studios, he'd only got plimsolls on, if anyone's old enough to remember what a plimsoll is. And he tried to walk up there and there was absolute silence. And I went, "Misa, I have Chelsea boots. I am 13 and cutting edge. I'm wearing my Chelsea boots." And so, as the boy walked up, I walked up by his side, and the microphone followed my feet to get some...
No, honestly, genuinely, Tony, I didn't know... I mean, that is... funny, Tim Rice was here the other week, and... we were saying about the extraordinary wordplay in that and how it probably is not just the best British music, but Oliver, I think, is it's where everyone should aim for, and lyrically and everything else that he did. And I know it's you quote your favourite lines from it. And there's pockets. We wander through London. Who knows what we may find? There's pockets left undone on many a behind. What a piece of work, and you're on it.
It's exquisite. I mean, I was in the very first production of Oliver, and because nobody knew it was going to be a big hit.
No.
These things aren't preordained.
Lionel Bart went for a walk down to the Embankment and came back and saw the people streaming out. Thought he hadn't finished. They were just leaving.
And actually, we got 27 curtain calls. Can you imagine that? Even the stage carpenters came on and took a bow because it was such an elaborate set.
Wow.
And I mean,
how many? I can't imagine. It's like when people had to do it in Russia, you know. But wow.
No, and I'm a little kid. I don't realise that that's a big deal.
Yeah.
My mum and dad in the audience are weeing themselves, and I'm just sitting there. Oh God, can we get off here?
You thought every production is going to be like this, did you?
But it's so interesting that you should talk about the lyrics. So there's this new musical. All the other musicals that have been in the West End forever have been fantastic, but have been American.
You don't need the headphones if you don't want them on.
Oh, thank you. You don't need that fez on if you...
It cheers me up.
And suddenly this British musical comes in with all these 13-year-old little lads in, and those lyrics: "In this life, one thing counts.
I know.
In the bank, large amounts." Isn't that fantastic?
I mean, I've got a very good memory. It comes from my mother. But I used to, like you did, and you were in it though, so I'm telling you, but, you know, and the wife is cook and sew for me and come for me and go for me and go for me and nag at me. The finger she will wag me, money she will take me, and misery should make me think, you know, good morning to you, magistrate, all of that. Yeah. It is an extraordinary piece of work, but I had no idea that I'd been listening to you longer than I've been listening to the Beatles.
That's right, it's absolutely,
And you still receive a little stipend, I understand.
I do. I receive about 8 or 9 quid each year for the sales of the Decca record. I've had this fancy over the last few years. Now, I may drop Cameron McIntosh a line, because he was actually in the stage management course when I was on the acting course at Central, saying, could I have a crack at playing Fagin?
Oh, wow,
you know, we're sort of 65 years later. It would be fun, wouldn't it?
You know what? And of course, there was that handover when Jonathan Pryce did it. Quite a few people. Griff Rhys-Jones.
Rowan did it.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, and you should. Well, it's a shoe.
I'm amazed they haven't asked.
Well,
so I'm upset now. I'm not going to write to him.
If they need somebody's footsteps to walk, I do have a well-heeled pair of boots indoors. I would love to just do that. You're one of the few people, also, just leaping around in the book, to have been in the steam room of the Titanic You've not replica of it, not the actual. You've been in the steam room of the Titanic.
Yeah, I should point out that as it's 2.5 miles down, I didn't actually get out of the mini sub.
Doesn't matter.
With my bar of soap, because I would have been squashed.
I'd love to think you saw some fat gentleman still in there with a towel around. Who's that interloper?
But you know the amazing. I went down with Jim Cameron.
Yeah.
I love saying Jim Cameron.
Yeah.
And people think, who's Jim? Oh my God, James Cameron. Yeah. It was a big American show, and Channel 4. We got a little show on the back of that, during which I was actually able to go down with him for Channel 4. Into the Titanic. And, you know, it's split in half, the Titanic. Half of it just went down like a rocket at 45 degrees. The other half went down like a saucer, back, forward, which meant it never tipped over. So when I went inside it, I could see plates still stacked up on the shelves that had never...
all the hairs stand up. Just hearing it.
I know. I mean, do you know what? Given a choice between that and the moon, I'll do that. I know it's never going to happen.
That's what
I think we've got to do the rugby. Not got to do, we want to do.
Yes, of course. Don Busby has the latest on the rugby.
There you go. Twice the magic, twice the adventure. But to actually... Some people think there's a trick question in that, but no, you've been inside the Titanic.
Yeah.
Man, I
love it. It's very odd, you know, because I was overawed, of course. And I was very, very scared because it was shortly after that Russian sub had gone down and never came.
Well, also you say in the book it's a little bit boring.
Oh, incredibly boring.
Not in there, the journey down.
The journey down, because you're 2.5... If you think about it, there's a limited amount of energy within a small sub.
Yeah.
And that's got to go for moving the sub about, for lighting you, or for heating you. So all the time, the guy who's steering has got to make this decision as to whether you're going to be cold, whether you can move, or whether you can see something outside. So in order to go down, you go down in complete darkness. And I'm going down with the scariest director in Hollywood, who isn't so totally uninterested in me anyway. And all I want to do is make sure that I don't poo in the 17 hours we're going to be in this tiny sub together.
17 hours?
Yeah. So it was, you know, really confusing and conflicting.
But as you say, you think you're going to hit the ocean, it's going to be like Captain Nemo. You're going to know nothing, pitch black.
Yeah.
Going right back, and there's a little parallel between the Titanic journey, which nearly didn't happen. You nearly didn't happen, did you? I mean, your career, rather like Sir David Jason, who I remember seeing in so many things, but that one, every series he seemed to get in with either cancelled early or didn't make the pilot and all of this. And you, for so many years, you thought, well, there's just a hex on me, didn't you?
Oh, I did. I genuinely did think there was a hex on me, yeah. I mean, the perfect example of that is Blackadder. And it was going back to that thing about Oliver when I said no success is preordained. The pilot was pretty rubbishy. I was excited to take it because I always wanted to be part of that Oxbridge comedy. I left school at 16. I didn't know anything about it.
Oh, did you? I see snobby 14 here. Last year you could leave it.
Well, you know, if there's anything you want to know. So, I was offered the pilot. About the 12th person to be offered the part of...
Do you know who else was?
I know Tim Spruill was.
Oh, OK.
He's the dad, isn't he? Is it?
Yeah.
But I don't know who else. Anyway, we rehearsed the pilot. There's an industrial dispute at the BBC, pilot's off. I go and work at the National Theatre, the pilot's put on, another bloke comes in as Baldrick, and then about 3 months later, John Lloyd rings me up and says, hey, we've got the series. I said, what, the Adder? He said, yeah. I said, well, congratulations. He said, well, no, you're going to be in it.
It's an extraordinary thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. I said, what do you mean? You had someone else do the pilot, and as I understand it, he was all right as Baldrick, you know. And he said, don't you remember, I always promised you that if we ever got a series, you would be Baldrick.
It never happened.
Well, yeah, he had told me that, but I thought it was exactly the kind of rubbish that producers always say. So then we finally mounted the first series, another industrial dispute, it doesn't go on. We do the first series eventually.
It's not very good, to be frank.
It is not very good, and they're not going to recommission it. It wasn't until 3 years after the day when they first offered me the part that suddenly it took off as a success. So all through that rest of that time, I'm thinking, oh, another of these things.
Because you had done quite a lot. I mean, it's thing in the book, you know, you're up for it and something will happen, then the money pulls out or there's a strike. And it seems at that point, were you ever that close to saying, you know what, hi diddle-dee, an actor's life's not for me? Did you ever get to that?
No. I don't know why I didn't. I think I had lots of interests outside of the business, which a lot of people, as you know, don't.
Yeah.
And so I would always, after the last particular wound, the last rejection, I would just go off and do something else. I was living in Bristol at the time. I worked
in a commune, sir.
In a commune,
and just because to me it always sounds quite romantic and bohemian and all of that. it was quite bohemian.
Yeah.
How did you end up living in a commune?
Well, it started out quite practically. There were three blokes, and we'd all had girlfriends. All the women were teachers in comprehensives. All the men worked in the theatre. We were in Bristol. We all wanted flats, and we decided the best thing to do was buy a big Georgian house in Clifton. Those £2 million houses.
Yeah.
We bought it for 12,800 quid, and we were going to just divide it into three, and then we said, we all love each other to bits. Why don't we live in it communally? So we all had our own bedrooms. We had our own bathrooms.
Oh, there you go.
Which I think is
that's huge.
Sanity. And the whole of the middle of the house was communal. We all cooked once a week, and then gradually we started having children, and the children...
And you remain friends, that's the thing. It's a lovely ideal to go in with, but you and your community actually stayed mates.
One of the guys was the great theatrical director. He became the great theatrical director, Howard Davis, who died last year, and that was an enormous sadness. You know.
And you were a piercing pioneer? You were one of the first people, when people didn't get piercings. You got the ear done, didn't you?
And I'd got the long hair like you did in those days. I'm sitting opposite my mum. I want to break her the news. We're in the Lions Corner house. I'm staring at her. Mum, will you please notice I've got a piercing in my... I don't know what this is, about 74, something like this. And in the end, I just had to playfully flick my hair away and say, look, I've got something to show you. The yell that came out of her mouth, the whole of the corner house turned around and looked at us, and my mother yelled at me, "You did that to hurt me!"
But, David Essex came along and made the whole thing OK after a while. You mentioned, of course, we've done Oliver, and before we move on to that, there's so much in the book, you don't even get around to mentioning there that your mate Stevie Marriott was at the time, and you tried to get to see him again afterwards, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew you would like that.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, so we're back to Oliver again. The timeline that Danny is describing, is weird. He's going back and forth.
You know what, though? It's because otherwise it seems like I've been handing notes on it. I'm just remembering the book as I'm talking to you.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So my understudy, once it's clear that Oliver is a success, I have to have an understudy. My understudy is Stephen Marriott from Plaistow, a little bit younger than me, a few months younger than me, but much beefier than me, and a real bully.
Yeah,
and he was like, you know what it's like with boys at that age? He was supposed to be my best friend, and I would have said he was, but I was terrified of him. And
he always had a snidey face. Like Dennis Wise. He had a Dennis Wise type face.
He has very like Dennis. And they always used to say, little Dennis Wise.
I know, snidey face then, that's all there is to it.
So we used to go down Valentine's Park in Ilford of a Sunday and play, and he gave me my first fag.
Yes, I understand, and you smoked it valiantly, but not naturally.
And puked, and 4 years later, he becomes Steve Marriott of the Small Faces, writes the song about Valentine's Park, Itchycoo Park.
Yeah.
Who was the first person who got high in Itchycoo Park with the lead singer of the Small Places with a player's weight cigarette? Me.
And yet when you tried to see him again, you couldn't make it.
Oh, no, it was heartbreak, because we had been so close, and I was working in the theatre at Leicester, and he was touring in those big halls in Leicester, I can't remember the name of it now, and I went round to see him afterwards, and there was this huge crowd, and I was pushed over, and my glasses were smashed, and I just managed to see him inside the coach, and I'm going, Stevie, Steve. And I saw that the coach doors kind of closed, and there is his face is all bleary and red. And to this day, I never know whether he saw me or not. But it was like a goodbye to my childhood.
And you never saw him again, did you?
No.
Yeah, and it's very honest in the book where you say it's not a great regret because I don't know what would have said to each other. I know. But, and now the timeline kind of goes forward a little bit and comes back a little bit again because
it's like reversing your car into a garage.
Well, let's call it a Blackadder back and forth. When another reason you nearly didn't do Blackadder is because in your training regime, running around the National Theatre, running through the corridors, you leapt off some stairs, and next thing you knew, the nurse was standing over him. That's a terrible injury you get. What were you doing?
Well, I was probably a little bit like you. I was I was short-sighted, I was dumpy, I was never like the sports...
I was fat.
Dump is a comedy way of saying so I was the only kids in the cross country who ever beat me were the chronic asthmatics. Yeah. You know, I mean, they're the only ones who were behind me. That destroyed that observation. But so I'm at the National Theatre and we're working on a Greek masked tragedy, 5 hours long. We all had to get fit. For the first time in my life, I was as fit as a fiddle, and I didn't walk around the corridors of the National Theatre. I sprinted, I leapt, I jumped. I would leap down whole flights of stairs. And I did that one morning, not realising that there was a central heating duct.
How about this?
Hanging from the ceiling halfway down. I'm flying through the air. My hit hits this duct.
Bang.
I'm kicked back onto the stairs. Bomb, 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 bomb. Go to the bottom. Go into a twitching frenzy. Pass out. I open my eyes again, and there is this voice talking to me, and it's like tiny gerbils chittering to each other. And I open my eyes and I look up, and looking down at me is the blessed face of Felicity Kendall.
How about that? He thinks he's died and gone to heaven. Hold it there. We're going to go update the rugby again.
At that moment, Don Busby.
This is why they call it twice the excitement, twice the adventure. But it was Felicity Kendall.
It was Felicity Kendall. Yeah, because she was working at the National Theatre at the time. I'd never seen her before. It was, a very big organisation. And she came and she found this poor man lying there and went away. Who was the next person who came? The man who rescued me, my saviour.
Go on.
The butler from Downton Abbey, Tim Carter. What more dependable man could you get?
The point is, there you were again on the verge of another great piece of work, and you were hospitalised. You were at the gun.
Yeah. My back was very badly damaged.
Yeah, well, now we're coming forward to Blackadder again. This music in the back is, Tony, I'd like to speak about Blackadder again.
I'm going through time with Danny Baker.
One thing I remember, which made my eyes raise, is when you used to write yourself and improvise during Blackadder scripts and stuff, some people couldn't take it. And one of those, and it seems a great piece of casting in Blackadder, was Wilfrid Bramble. Oh. Wilfrid Bramble didn't get your modus operandi, so to speak.
No, we didn't create the script like normal sitcoms or plays were created in those days. I mean, if you imagine, it was all very hierarchical at the BBC in those times. And suddenly in come all these Oxbridge people, all of whom have been at university together. Richard Curtis and Ben Elton would give us the script on the Monday, then they'd go away to write the next script, and we would all get down to kind of reworking the script together, much more like the American version, the way Taxi and Cheers and those sort of programmes were being produced at that time. It was very collective. I mean, it really used to hack Ben and Richard off, I have to say, when they
I should imagine it would.
At the end of it, completely changed. So we never did any acting. All we did, and you'll appreciate this more than anybody, Dan, we would sit round a table like this with the scripts, and we would just hack it out. Is that gag tight enough? Is the lead-up funny enough? What's that character? How can we build that?
And all that. What did you just say? What did you write that down? What did you just say when people get like that?
I said you were... I said you were really fat.
That always gets a laugh. But say, Wilfrid Bramble...
Oh, yeah, so Bramble comes into rehearsals. He's going, where do I move to on this line? What's my motivation?
Yeah.
All that. And we're just sitting there, just stay there, Mr. Bramble, because we're just getting the script tighter and tighter and tighter, until on the Wednesday he suddenly exploded and said he'd never worked with such an unprofessional group of young people in his entire life, and he wasn't going to collude with it anymore, and voomp, he gone.
Disappeared. That is, I mean, it's understandable. It's a tremendous loss.
Yeah.
Before I forget it, another programme lost for different reasons because it didn't happen. And this, when I read it, this made my head sing. A situation comedy set in an Italian restaurant. This is quite vaguely recent compared to that. About this, Peps. It was set in an Italian restaurant, and they couldn't think of the right title for it. Sitcom, Italian restaurant. It was going to be called...
Yes, Minestrone.
Yes! Oh, how about that? That needs more.
And if you think that the cast... Oh, thank you!
Yes, Minestrone.
Oh, I'm basking in the success that never happened.
How straight that is.
You don't need the show. You just need that title.
Cast Miriam Margolyes, Jim Broadbent, Tim McInerney and myself. And it was, as it were, the precursor of Kumar's at 42. If you think of the Kumar's at 42. Except these were the 4 people who worked in an Italian restaurant. It was, virtually the same thing, although 10 years previously. And the Beeb, and this was just after Blackadder the Third, and we were sure we were going to get the show.
Well, just that title, that's a commission right there. When I read that, Yes Minestrone, man. One of my favourite jokes is of a par with that in Frank Norden's and Dennis Muir's career. They used to sit while they're supposed to be writing other scripts, coming up with running orders of programmes that will never be made. And just while we're here, and Dennis Norden came up with a programme. 8 o'clock, ITV Tonight. By day, she dispensed justice. By night, she was queen of the music halls. Join us at 8 for Tara Raboom, DA. Oh! And that's up there with Yes Minestrone.
Yes.
Full time at the rugby, Don Busby.
Last thing on Blackadder, the Ladybird books, and when I read that, of course, because you thought period in history, what do we do? And is that right? It just when I bought a Ladybird book.
Well, how serious he is, I don't know. But Ben Elton always said you can actually write one episode of Blackadder in any period of history you can think of. Do one in the Black Hole of Calcutta.
Yeah.
Do one in the Wild West. What you need to do is find a period of history where you can do 6. And he said the best way to do that is go out and buy the Ladybird history book of various parts of history, and the one that's got the 6 best chapters in is the one that you need. Thus the Tudors.
So let's leap forward now to a Time Team, of course. That was my kids when they were growing up. Always called it the Digging Show. So it was a digging show. The Digging Show's on. And how many actual episodes of Time Team?
It was about over 200. Yeah.
Well, at the end of every one, we used to sit around with half a lager in front of you, or sometimes a pint in front at a table. I thought, well, that's a nice set, obviously, and they call you over, we got the drinks in, but it turns out that's exactly what you did, and I always wanted to know that at the end of the day you lot would sit around, have a few beers and talk about it, and that was actually what you did.
Oh yeah, certainly in the early days. I mean, often people wouldn't go to bed all night, and then would come in the next day and do 11, 12 hours digging.
Is this one of the casts, or we just dig this up?
Time Team dig, and everyone who was likely to fall in love and into bed with each other would do so. But gradually, as the series went on and we all got a bit older, we all slowed up a bit.
But even so, I like that, and that kind of camaraderie you cannot manufacture. No,
it was called Time Team, and people assumed the Time Team was the 6 people who you saw in front of the screen. Actually, there were about 46 people. That's what we catered for every day.
Yeah.
And they were all part of the Time Team, and it was very pleasurable for
and again, it's in the book, of course, the kind of accidental way out of a conversation that came to be. But that led on to you being, with Baldrick as well, the being linked to history. They're kind of accidental, but even so, when you're doing the worst jobs in history, etc., and Maid Marian and all of these. But it almost seems like a door that opened that you were never planning on becoming associated as a historical...
it's so weird. I cannot understand that. You're right. This theme of history has run through all of my life, and I've always believed that you can't know who you are unless you know where you came from. People, you can't understand the language you use, the laws you're governed by, the 19th century novel, anything, really, unless you understand history. So I believe that passionately. But the fact that this theme of history has gone through all the different jobs I've been asked to do as a freelance makes no sense to me at all.
And the worst jobs in history, which were great books. How many books have you written?
I do. Well, I've written about 30 kids' books and about 4 or 5 adult books.
And I know through reading the book, and also know because it was local to the area I grew up in Bermondsey, and people knew what Pure was and what Pure collectors were. It was collecting dog poop to make gloves and leather. But other than that job, what to you was the most gruelling bit of filming you had to do?
Oh, I've always said that the worst job in history is the person who presents a series called The Worst Job in History.
Bravo! Of course it is.
Of course, because all the other people only did one of them. I had to do the bloody lot. And also because I was like 21st century.
You were ducked.
I didn't have the muscles to do the jobs that I was supposed to do. I wasn't. My body wasn't. I didn't have the good germs to fight the bad germs. Whatever that word is that I'm looking for. Sorry, we're talking it so fast. Can you slow this interview down?
You know what? We just want to get out of people's way and sell the book. That's all we want.
All right, it's a great book, and it's got a lot about the worst jobs in history, and
when you did finish this, and did you think that's not in there? Is there another one?
Oh, worst jobs, yeah.
No, not worst. Your own no cunning plan. Is there parts of it you think, I didn't put that...
Oh, huge amounts. Yeah, great amounts, yeah.
You
and I tell you what, there's the extraordinary thing happened to me. I've just been doing the book tour, promoting the paperback of it.
You still do?
Yeah. For independent bookshops. And it's brilliant, because all over the country, they set up gigs for me at, like, schools and community centres, and you get about 300 people come in, and they all buy the book, blah, blah, blah. Last night, I'm in Charlie Wood. I just finished the show. This bloke comes on stage, out of the audience. My publisher people are going, whoa, it's a crazy man. He comes up to me and he hands me this photo. And I say, thank you very much, I'll look at it later. He said, no, do look at it now. And I open the photo, and inside there's me and a bunch of boys, aged 13, a photo I've never seen before. And I said, where did you get that from? He said, I am Keith Hampshire. I was the original Oliver in the show.
Oh, man.
Oliver, who I'd not seen for over a quarter of a century. And, of course, all the audience could share that with me, because I've been telling some of those stories that I've told you earlier. And I'm suddenly confronted with this ghost figure out of my earlier life and this image to go with it.
The reason we hurtled through it is because there was so much to get through. We've only touched upon it. The art hour's been eaten up, which is not always the way, but bless you for doing that. My final question to you is, what next is the question? What are you you're doing more dates?
Yeah, I'm doing more dates next week. I think I'm in Abergavenny on Monday, Ely on Tuesday, something like that.
Well, the paperback of No Cunning Plan is out now, and as I say, we just touched the surface. We didn't even get round to the tremendous and devious old tricks you played on actors, like scoffing biscuits behind them and stealing the scene. But
fights in the wings.
Fights in the wings. It's all there. It's No Cunning
with
Plan.
Rex Harrison.
By Tony Robinson. Thank you very much for being with us.
Cheers, matey.
Where we go.
Saturday mornings with Danny Baker on 5 Live.
Call 08085 909 693. Text 85058. Email lord.reith@bbc.co.uk.
Twice the magic. Twice the adventure. There you go. That's got some snap to it. It's better than the last few. So very good morning to everybody. Tony Robinson and I out there embraced. And of course, he and I are in this, pinko hotbed of the BBC. We're right at home, the pair of us. We're already formed a commune ourselves. Very good morning to everyone. Plenty going on. And the only other anniversary, and at the top of the show, we'd like to shine a light on some of the anniversary we won't get. Edison's batteries today. Edison's batteries. Edison, I don't think he invented the battery, but he came up with the A-type battery today.
Oh!
It's the birthday of the A-type battery.
Do you think... Do you think people like Edison, if he found out now we're still calling them AA and AAA, would be impressed or say, oh, come on!
No, I think so, because there's no B batteries, is there? Is there B? There's one of the letters they don't use. There's C batteries.
C and D.
But no, they don't have the B battery. And we're not looking for an answer, but posing the question. I'm not sure what the AE stand, or the AAA. Or here's something, and I'll tell you this. Sorry, Lou and Noala, we're coming right to you. So I'll tell you this. I don't know how batteries work. I don't know what they put in there. How do they work? What's in there? I know it's a reaction, but even so, I don't have a clue. No, I don't know how they work.
Never thought about it.
And there they are hanging out. Oh, they're full of energy. But what? What's going on? What? I don't know how they work. Transistor radios used to have ones that were like big fat boxes. They used to go in the back of that. But I don't know how it can possibly work. Noala. I'm just chatting.
Hello, Danny.
How are you doing again, my friend? You don't know how batteries work, do they? Do you have any idea how batteries work?
I think it's to do with the how the electrons and the molecules in them are sort of mixed up, and some go one way, some go to the other.
Yeah, but let me write that down. With my typewriter. Once I'll be right with you. You know I like to write that stuff down. Hang on. Electrons. One goes one way. One goes the other. If anyone asks me again, I've got it. Why are you tugging your coat this morning, my friend?
Well, I wanted to tell you about my sister Jolene, who lives in Harlow.
Yeah.
She went to a swimming pool or a leisure centre one evening, Friday evening, had a lovely swim. She was the only one in the pool. Went back to the changing room, was getting toweled off when the lights went out. But she didn't panic because she figured that they were on a timing device.
Yeah.
It was only when she left the changing room and got into the main area of the leisure centre that she realised the whole building was in darkness. She called out a bit. She tried a few doors. I think actually found the exit/entrance to the building. It was locked.
So this is... Sorry, I'm forgetting. We set this subject being locked in. Locked in a swimming bath? I've never heard of this.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. So then she had to phone her husband, and I can imagine what that phone call was like. Yes. So in between bouts of laughter, I think he phoned the police, who then phoned the leisure centre manager, and they all arrived at the leisure centre to release my sister.
It seems...
I'd have gone and got back in the pool.
Oh, man.
Bombed. I'd have done all sorts.
I've tried to get him hand up the machine to get some crisps out without paying. The world, looking in lockers, see if anyone's left anything. There's plenty to do. But it seems a little remiss of them. It seems a little remiss of them not to have gone... someone's still in the pool. That's the least of your duties when you're knocking up.
I know.
Wow. And how long was she actually locked away, do we know?
Oh, well, I think it must have been over an hour or so, because by the time she realised she was locked in, trying to find her way out, phoned her husband, he phones the police, he gets the manager, they all arrive, so I'm giving it a good hour.
Man, well, thank you very much indeed. I've never heard of anyone locked in. We've had shops before, of course, and different work premises, but there's something a bit creepy about being in. Thank you very much, my friend. There's something very little creepy. Thank you of being in a swimming bath when it's shut. The lights off.
Oh, I thought that'd be quite good fun.
Swimming in the dark? I don't know if I've ever done this. Except every week between 9 and 11 here on the show. What you got over there, Pep?
Well, we'll stay with getting locked in. Tim in France. I got trapped in a friend's vestibule after he left early for work. When I tried to leave, the flat door clicked shut behind me, but my friend had forgotten I was there and had locked the front door. I was trapped. My mobile had no signal. I had to call out to passers-by through the letterbox.
I'll bet. I've had these before.
After 5 hours, someone eventually called the fire brigade. London's finest arrived with blue lights flashing and a bizarre conversation ensued. There was a window open in the flat, but they wouldn't let me back in the flat if I couldn't prove that I lived there. I could be a burglar. But eventually they concluded that if I was a burglar, I was a pitifully incompetent one and set me free.
Funny enough, years ago doing this, somebody who wasn't the same caller... got stuck in, because I thought vestibule when you said it. I couldn't think of what that was. It seems most people then have at some time become locked, in that little porch where they put the flyers through. Here's our friend Lou. Hey, Lou!
Hi.
How are you doing, Lou? Thank you very much for being... You're calling from Switzerland. What business have you got in Switzerland?
Yes, well, it's going back to your story about borders.
But how long have you been in Switzerland? What are you doing in Switzerland?
Just over 16 years now.
You must be loaded. Isn't it the most expensive place in the world?
It is pretty pricey, yes. It is very pricey. But where we live right on the border of France and Germany. So we have the choice of the shops. And actually, it's a bit of a problem because a lot of people go shopping in Germany because it's so much cheaper.
And people... because I've only stayed in Switzerland... Let me put that another way. I've never stayed in Switzerland. Don't people get into fistfights over the correct time and stuff in Switzerland? Is that, believe me, we've got a long history on this show of dealing with the country, but it seems like a wonderful place. Am I right?
It is. It is. It's beautiful. And, and where we live, we have a ridge of hills just behind us. And the last hump is France. And it was fun when we first came over, to speak to friends and say, we've been shopping in France this morning and I'm going to Germany this afternoon.
Oh, man, that's the style.
It's normal now.
And Lou, we'll get round to your call in a second, but while we're here, and there's plenty to talk about, as we always know with Switzerland, Petula Clark, who was here a couple of months ago, because she used to be the most famous resident in Switzerland, singer-wise, but now it's not anymore because a Swiss citizen for the last 4 years, Tina Turner.
Really?
Yeah.
Tina Turner? Yes, Tina Turner's Swiss these days. How about that?
She's become Swiss, has she? Oh, fantastic.
Yes,
Phil Collins also. Phil Collins lives in Switzerland. Well,
yes, of course. As I say, I think that the show should definitely come from Switzerland because we're already a shoe-in. The producer of the show is part Swiss. That's true. So, Lou, what was you calling about?
Going back to the borders, living so close.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
And the tram stop, going on back to time, you do notice people sort of checking their watches if the tram is a few minutes late but it's just fantastic service. It is amazing.
And
the tram...
How far are you walking from different countries?
Walking, it's probably for France, it's probably about half an hour walk. Germany is a little bit further. In Basel itself, because we live very close to Basel, you probably know it from the football, they have a sort of a monument, they call it the Dreiecke, which is the three corners where France, Germany and Switzerland actually meet.
And Liechtenstein's the other way, is it?
Liechtenstein's right the other end, yeah.
You know, Switzerland has invaded Liechtenstein by mistake twice in the last 5 years. It has. Yeah, honestly. The army go on manoeuvres because they find themselves in a forest and then overcomes, the Liechtenstein's own policeman to say, you're in our country again. It's quite true. I love Switzerland.
You don't know. I mean, walking the dog, you suddenly realise, actually, now I'm in France. It's good fun. And our tram will stop a few stops down the line. There's a stop in France. And it just stops there and then carries on. So it's just so normal now.
And inevitably, I'm going to have to ask you, the people local to you, what language do they speak?
They speak Swiss German, so it's a form of German, but it's a dialect, and it's actually a lot of French in it as well. So they'll say poulet for chicken and vélo for bike. But they speak German around us. But it's a Swiss German. It's quite different from Thai German, so it's quite tricky.
Well, bless you, because this started earlier on this morning because a house has gone for sale. Going for sale for $109,000. The front room is in Vermont in the States, and the back garden is in Quebec in Canada. And now we understand that that's nothing to lose. You've got half a dozen countries running through her front room.
Easy, yeah.
Oh, bless you, Lou. Thank you very much indeed. Any time, my friend. Thank you for that. What you got over there, Peps?
Peter and Dudley. Politeness gone wrong.
Peter and Dud?
No, Peter in Dudley.
That's tremendous. Anyone else out there form a double act? Have we got someone called Morecambe in Wires or something like that?
Before we start, can you say hello to his mum, Margaret? She's been a bit poorly. She's a big fan.
Hey, Margaret, how you doing? And now we've got Pete and Dud. That's just wonderful. I thought you generally said Pete and Dud.
I was working in Birmingham town centre many years ago and caught the bus home every night. This one particular evening, I'd got talking to a young woman I was very attracted to, while a somewhat drunk gentleman of the road was busy shouting his views to all the bus queue. I'm not sure how exactly, but I suddenly realised he had fallen over and was lying on his back, struggling to right himself as he was somewhat portly. Wanting to impress the girl and being a decent human being, I went over to help him right himself. I was halfway through achieving this when the poor man seemed to get the impression I was robbing him and started punching me in the back of the head. His blows didn't hurt, but I could almost hear the contented sigh of a bus queue given some entertainment on a dull Tuesday evening. I was then caught in the dilemma of either continuing to help him up and give him a chance to take a proper swing at me, or drop him and leave him to his fate. I did help him up, and I stepped back as he took one ineffectual swing at me. But the conversation had somewhat dried up between me and the girl as he focused his tirade on me exclusively. Also, I had taken on a good deal of his odour whilst helping.
Oh, no, man.
Thankfully, the bus came quickly, but she sat next to someone else rather than share the double seat with me home. A few people shared that seat with me, but only until another empty seat became free.
And what was the heading on that? What was it?
Politeness gone wrong.
Politeness gone wrong, of course it was. So my son ran for a bus. The bus pulled away, but then stopped about 50 yards on. Opened the doors for him, and he got up to the door, thought, oh, this isn't the bus I want. But his politeness forced him to get on, thanked the driver, couldn't get off straight away, it looked pathetic, so he sat on there for 4 stops going somewhere he didn't want to go. Here's Lisa. Lisa!
Hello.
Hey, thank you very much for being there. Good morning to you, Lisa. This is our old friend becoming locked in. A swimming baths a moment ago. Where are we going, Lisa?
Basically, I got locked in an office.
Okay. Sounds plausible.
On the weekend.
How come? Oh, no! Oh, this sounds like one of those stories that turns up on Strange But True. How can you be locked in for an entire weekend?
Well, not... Okay, so it wasn't actually the entire weekend, but basically... so my kids were quite young, and I wasn't working full-time, and an opportunity to work for this very lovely solicitor came up on a weekend just to do some data entry. So I thought, okay, husband will look after the kids, no problem, great. Meet her at the office, and it's empty, just me in this office block, and she sets me up with everything. Now, let's go back to a time when there was no mobile phone.
That's most of these stories rely on that, yeah.
Absolutely. And So she's very sweet, lovely. She said, right, I'll be off and, I shall come back at said time and, just to sort of make sure everything's okay. And off she went, and I sort of crack on working, and I hear, a couple of hours later, I hear someone in the corridor, and I just thought, well, perhaps it was her and she'd come back earlier. And then I hear this key jangling, and the next thing I know, the door to this office has been locked.
Oh, right. Well, it's just a matter of, surely you think, oh, well, I'll go up and I'll knock on and someone will come and free me. You know.
And I'm sort of, hello, hello. But no, maybe he had headphones on. I don't know. Did we have headphones in those days?
Yes, of course.
He probably had a Sony
No, listen, it's Marconi's birthday. He had headphones long before there was any need for them. So there it is. You find yourself cut off, so to speak.
Yes.
Now what?
So I'm sort of thinking, okay, right, don't panic. And, I'm sort of nowadays one would just, you pick up your mobile phone and, you text or whatever. So I was like, I don't even actually have this woman's number on me. And I got the job through my sister.
And soon, night must fall.
And I thought, well, the husband will be, the kids will all be walking around in their pyjamas and starving, and, the sky's going to fall in. And so I sort of frantically tried to get hold of my sister, eventually got hold of her, explained the situation, said, it's your friend. Can you contact her?
Ring a sister, blame her. I like that. Yeah.
It's your friend. And so, sort of was left up to my sister to try and get hold of this lady, who, again, of course, no one has mobile phones.
And let me just why, Lisa, did you not pick up a chair? It's one of the few times in your life you're legitimised. You pick up a chair and you heave it straight through the window. You didn't fancy doing that?
I didn't fancy doing that, actually. It hadn't actually even occurred to me, but...
Oh, man,
reflection.
Followed by a phone.
Look, back in those days, I'm quite short, but back in those days I was also quite slight. Mm-hmm. So, I, in those days I would have trouble opening a fridge door, not now, but...
And so, you said you were there the weekend. In fact, how long?
Not quite the weekend.
How long were you there?
It was at the weekend.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd go for the dramatic. I'm so sorry, Lisa.
I like that, though. I should have said that, because it's a story.
So how long in total were you there?
So in total, I was there for 6 hours.
Were you? Oh, man.
Yeah, and it was boring. Apart from...
Go on. I hate to say it, but office life is not a circus in the first place.
You didn't have the internet either. You can't sit there and watch a TV programme or anything.
Sounds like bliss, doesn't it?
To make matters worse, I was actually really bad at the job because I was Windows. And she had this kind of very early Mac. And I just didn't understand. I couldn't even do
Lisa, because we've got people piling up, I'll thank you for that. But the idea you lost the audience then, they were saying, well, there it is, it's at the end of the world. How will I ever eat again? Will I ever see my children? Oh, they got a Mac and I'm Windows. That seems to be the detail that everyone said, oh, come on. I'm hungry. I've been forgotten. I've been abandoned. And it's an early Mac. Hell, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it. We've got Malcolm and Andy. What you got over there, Peps?
This is from Noodles. It's a long story, but I'll try and give a brief outline, he said.
That's all right, we've only got 7 minutes.
We need some of your...
Ease us out of here.
We might need one of your sound effects here.
What one?
It'll become clear.
All right.
Making a racket is true. Many years ago now, I got a couple of carrier bags full of muddy golf balls that had come out of a lake on a golf course. Weeks later in winter, I was having to look after my 3-year-old while my wife went Christmas shopping. Bored, I began scrubbing the balls. 30 minutes later, sore hands, I'd only cleaned about 5. I'm not domestic in any way, but thinking on my feet, I thought, I'll put them in the washing machine.
How wonderful.
A while later, all was well, until it went into spin.
Yeah, I'll bet.
As it progressed, it was all I could do to stop it from exiting the room on its own. The noise and vibration was something incredible. There was more to this woe. In a nutshell, this 2-month-old washing machine broke down a week later, self-destructed. Wife baffled, engineer came out and said in his 20 years as an appliance engineer, he'd never seen a concrete drum break up like this one. Looking at my wife, he said, what on earth have you been putting in here?
As you know, if this were a TV show, then all we'd need now is a washing machine, and stay tuned, because after 11 we'll be putting these golf balls in that washing machine and turning it on. Man, you'd never feel more alive. Here's Malcolm. Hey, Malcolm.
Hi there.
How are you, Malcolm? This is, the subject that seems to have taken over the show, which is now, don't talk to me about being locked in. What have you got for us, Malcolm?
We've got locked in a medieval castle.
Very good.
Conwy Castle.
Oh, go on. How can you get locked in a castle?
Well, I went with my mother and my wife, and it was quite late when we went in. It was October, not many people about. And you have to walk across a walkway into it. And we ended up, it's got loads of towers, and we ended up at the far tower right at the end when we heard this bell ring. So we thought, okay, we better meander down and make our way out. But by the time we got there, they'd locked the gates on us, and it's these big metal iron gates like a prison.
Well, it's a castle. It's a castle, yeah. And, of course, there's the moat to negotiate.
Yeah.
So they've locked you in a castle, and those keys you need for castles, Peps, I don't know if you've seen them. They're like golf clubs. They're huge. All right, so you think, well, something else is going to happen. Did it?
Yeah. Well, there's no windows to put a chair through, is there?
No.
You don't build those things like that.
You could strip down the furniture, fashion an arrow, and fire it through those slits. Bing.
Well, you suddenly realise how big these things are. They're huge. And so we ended up kind of hanging on to the gates, looking at people down in the street. There was one or two people around, but we kind of called out, hello, but people just ignore you. You just think it's a nutcase.
It's students messing around, looking at it inside the castle. Don't you do no damage in there? Did you have... Because it depends what castle you're in, but if you were in... I know Tower of London, it's a castle. There's plenty to do. Was there nothing to do?
No, it's just rocks inside. Ask Tony, he'll tell you.
Well, and of course, if you're with anyone who makes a suggestion, you can literally say, not a bad idea, let's run it up the flagpole to see who salutes it, and you could literally do that. How long were you locked in a castle, my friend?
Actually, it wasn't that long. It was about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
One of the staff realised. I don't know how they knew we were there, to be honest with you, but they must have seen us on a camera or something.
Where was this, by the way?
It was Conwy Castle.
Yeah, the people around there say... Every now and then you can hear voices coming from that castle after it's closed, and you see people walking along the battlements, eating chips. Thank you, Malcolm. We've got Andy to come. What you got there, Peps?
Now, last week you said that you wanted a greenhouse in your garden.
We were talking. Last week was a greenhouse special.
Yes,
you missed it. Okay.
Robert Banks has volunteered. His greenhouse can be the first to broadcast from if we go on our greenhouse tour of the country.
Go on.
4 PowerPoints, a light, and a Wi-Fi signal.
Wow, that is a belter. This is the kind of offer sometimes I throw out there thinking no one's going to pick up on it. That is a proper greenhouse. I shall take that home to Wend. Very quickly is Andy. Andy, I'm sorry to leave you right to the end of the show. We've got about 45 seconds, my friend. Andy, what happened?
No problem. It was 45 seconds of hell. I was a young submariner back in 1985 or something, and I got thrown down the ballast tank of this submarine with
Andy.
I don't even think a friend of mine was there.
Andy, and hold it there. You can't start a conversation where I've said we've got like 30 seconds for the whole thing, and saying I was a submariner, I got thrown down the ballast tank. Could you join us to be the first caller on next week's show? Is that possible?
If you really want me to.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't leave.
You've got a week to build it up, this story.
Absolutely. We're not on those shows that then says, thanks, Andy, like we're not listening. I'm listening. And you're a submariner, you get thrown into ballast tanks. The subject is being locked in a submarine. I think we might start with that, Andy. Bless you. Thank you if you'll be good enough, Claire. We'll start with Andy next week, because that started, that's what they call a cliffhanger. One for the pot there, Peps, if you have anything.
This is beautiful. This ties up lovely from Tom. This ties up everything that we need. Moths and monitors.
OK, go on.
Hi, guys. I lived in India at a school in Delhi, and there was a huge problem with moths, specifically the woolly bear moth.
Oh, I know about woolly bear moths.
In the 6th form, I was made mothiter.
Brilliant. Go on.
We monitor for the moths. That's all he says.
Oh,
sadly,
no, he can't leave us there.
No enamel shield badge.
The mothiter, but what were your...
Finding or killing or...
No, that'll be the second call next week. Well, there's been plenty there, one way and the other, this week, here on a date with the... Choco Leibniz biscuit. Celebrates its
the
birthday.
orange ones?
No. Let's not muddy the waters, and that's all they'll do. Happy birthday to Evelyn Champagne King, and also to Olivia de Havilland, 100 years old. That'll do us this week. I should let our friend stay on and do his call.
F. Murray Abraham's next week, may I just point out?
Yes.
Big star.
F. Murray Abraham will be next week. But in the meantime, thanks to Tony Robinson, of course, and as always, chiefly yourselves. But don't forget, you're listening to 5 Live. Twice the magic, twice the adventure. Oh, that one's here to stay, ain't it?
The Danny Baker Show is a Campbell Davison media production for BBC Radio 5 Live.
You're listening to a BBC 5 Live podcast. The Danny Baker Show.
If you like this, you might also like this.
Kermode and Mayo's film review.
If you don't know your app from your elbow, boom tish, here all week, tip your waitress.
To find out more about our range of podcasts, click, tap or swipe bbc.co.uk/5live.